Hare Krishna, my friends. Welcome to Bhaktiville. Yay! It's Friday night. Here we are. Here with me here in the temple is our Bhaktivimulus, Bhakti Greece, and I know Kandita is coming. I texted her, and hopefully and as here she comes in the door. Haribo, Kandita. So
Hare
welcome,
Krishna.
everyone. So tonight
Hare
we continue our journey reading the Nectar of Devotion. We're starting tonight on Chapter 3, Eligibility of the Candidate for Accepting Devotional Service. And we'll probably read into Chapter 4, a little bit of Chapter 4 tonight too. So this Chapter 3 is on page 28 of the book or page 64 on the PDF. So let's get started. I'll sing a little bit, offer some prayers, and we'll get going. Excuse me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at His lotus feet. Our respectful obeisances are unto you, O spiritual master, servant of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami. You are kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Dev and delivering the Western countries, which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. I also offer my respectful obeisances unto the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees and can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. All right, page 28 of the book. Chapter 3, Eligibility of the Candidate for Accepting Devotional Service. On account of his association with Mahatmas, or great souls, who are 100% in the devotional service of the Lord, one may attain a little bit of attraction for Sri Krishna. But at the same time, one may remain very much attached to fruitive activities and material sense enjoyment, and not be prepared to undergo the different types of renunciation. Such a person, if he has unflinching attraction to Krishna, becomes an eligible candidate for discharging devotional service. This attraction for Krishna consciousness in association with pure devotees is the sign of great fortune. It is confirmed by Lord Chaitanya that only the fortunate persons, by the mercy of both a bona fide spiritual master and Krishna, will get the seed of devotional service. In this connection, Lord Krishna says in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 20th chapter, verse 8, quote, "My dear Uddhava, only by exceptional fortune does someone become attracted to me, Krishna. And even if one is not completely detached from fruitive activities, or is not completely attached to devotional service, such service is quickly effective." End quote. Devotees can be divided into 3 classes. The first, or uppermost class, is described as follows. One is very expert in the study of relevant scriptures, and he is also expert in putting forward arguments in terms of those scriptures. He can very nicely present conclusions with perfect discretion and can consider the ways of devotional service in a decisive way. He understands perfectly that the ultimate goal of life is to attain to the transcendental loving service of Krishna, and he knows that Krishna is the only object of worship and love. This first-class devotee is one who has strictly followed the rules and regulations under the training of a bona fide spiritual master and has sincerely obeyed him in accord with revealed scriptures. Thus, being fully trained to preach and become a spiritual master himself, he is considered first class. A first-class devotee never deviates from the principles of higher authority, and he attains firm faith firm faith in the scriptures by understanding with all reasons and arguments. When we speak of arguments and reason, it means arguments and reason on the basis of revealed scripture. The first-class devotee is not interested in dry, speculative methods meant for wasting time. In other words, one who has attained a mature determination in the matter of devotional service can be accepted as the first-class devotee. And in Sanskrit, this first-class devotee is called an Uttama Adhikari. Uttama you can remember like ultimate, Uttama Adhikari. The second-class devotee has been defined by the following symptoms. He is not very expert in arguing on the strength of revealed scripture, but he has firm faith in the objective. The purport of this description is that the second-class devotee has firm faith in the procedure of devotional service unto Krishna, but he may sometimes fail to offer arguments and decisions on the strength of revealed scripture to an opposing party. But at the same time, he is still undaunted within himself as to his decision that Krishna is the supreme object of worship. And the Sanskrit word for that, the second-class devotee, is Madhyama Adhikari. The neophyte, or third-class devotee, is one whose faith is not strong and at the same time does not recognize the decision of the revealed scripture. The neophyte's faith can be changed by someone else with strong arguments or by an opposite decision. Unlike the second-class devotee, who also cannot put forward arguments and evidences from the scripture, but who still has all faith in the objective, the neophyte has no firm faith in the objective. Thus he is called the neophyte devotee, and the Sanskrit word for that is Kanishta Adhikari. Further classification of the neophyte devotee is made in the Bhagavad Gita. It is stated there that 4 classes of men, namely those who are distressed, those who are in need of money, those who are inquisitive, and those who are wise, begin devotional service and come to the Lord for relief in the matter of their respective self-satisfaction. And that's Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 16, if you want to look that up. They go into some place of worship and pray to God for mitigation of material distress, or for some economic development, or to satisfy their inquisitiveness. And a wise man who simply realizes the greatness of God is also counted amongst the neophytes. Such beginners can be elevated to the second class or first class platform if they associate with pure devotees. An example of the neophyte class is Maharaj Dhruva. He was in need of his father's kingdom and therefore engaged himself in devotional service to the Lord. Then in the end, when he was completely purified, he declined to accept any material benediction from the Lord. Similarly, Gajendra was also distressed and prayed to Krishna for protection, after which he became a pure devotee. Similarly, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumar were all in the category of wise, saintly persons, and they were also attracted by devotional service. A similar thing happened to the assemblage in the Naimisharanya forest, headed by the sage Shaunaka. They were inquisitive and were always asking Sutta Goswami about Krishna. Thus they achieved the association of a pure devotee and became pure devotees themselves. So that is the way of elevating oneself. In whatever condition one may be, if he is fortunate enough to associate with pure devotees, then very quickly he is elevated to the second class or first class platform. These 4 types of devotees have been described in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and they have all been accepted as pious. Without becoming pious, no one can come to devotional service. It is explained in the Bhagavad Gita that only one who has continually executed pious activities and whose sinful reactions in life have completely stopped can take to Krishna consciousness. Others cannot. The neophyte devotees are classified into 4 groups: the distressed, those in need of money, the inquisitive, and the wise, according to their gradations of pious activities. Without pious activities, if a man is in a distressed condition, he becomes an agnostic, a communist, or something like that. Because he does not firmly believe in God, he thinks that he can adjust his distressed condition by totally disbelieving in him. Lord Krishna, however, has explained in the Gita that out of these 4 types of neophytes, the one who is wise is very dear to him, because a wise man, if he is attached to Krishna, is not seeking an exchange of material benefits. A wise man who becomes attached to Krishna does not want any return from him, neither in the form of relieving distress nor in gaining money. This means that from the very beginning, his basic principle of attachment to Krishna is more or less love. Furthermore, due to his wisdom and study of Shastras, the scriptures, he can understand also that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that after many, many births, when one becomes actually wise, he surrenders unto Vasudeva, knowing perfectly well that Krishna, Vasudeva, is the origin and cause of all causes. Therefore, he sticks to the lotus feet of Krishna and gradually develops love for him. Although such a wise man is very dear to Krishna, the others are also accepted as very magnanimous, because even though they are distressed or in need of money, they have come to Krishna for satisfaction. Thus they are accepted as liberal, broad-minded Mahatmas. Without being elevated to the position of a jnani or wise man, no one can stick to the principle of worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Others who are less intelligent, or those whose intelligence has been taken away by the spell of Maya, are attached to different demigods on account of the influence of the modes of nature. The wise man is he who has thoroughly understood that he is spirit soul and not simply a body. Because he realizes that he is spirit and that Krishna is the Supreme Spirit, he knows that his intimate relationship should be with Krishna, not with this body. The distressed and the man in want of money are in the material concept of life, because distress and need of money are both in relationship with this body. One who is inquisitive may be a little above the distressed and the man in need of money, but still he is on the material platform. But a wise man who seeks Krishna knows perfectly well that he is spirit soul, or Brahman, and that Krishna is the Supreme Spirit Soul, or Param Brahman. He knows that the Spirit Soul, being subordinate and finite, should always dovetail himself with the infinite and Supreme Soul, Krishna. That is the relationship of the wise man with Krishna. It can be concluded that a person who is freed from the bodily concept of life is an eligible candidate for pure devotional service. It is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that after Brahman realization, when one is freed from material anxieties and can see every living entity on an equal level, he is eligible to enter into devotional service. Oh, hi, Ellie. Nice to see you. We're on page 32 of the book, or page 68 of the PDF. I'm just starting the first full paragraph. As has been stated before, there are 3 kinds of happiness: material, spiritual, and devotional. Devotional service and the happiness due to its execution are not possible so long as one is materially affected. If someone has desire for material enjoyment, or for becoming one with the Supreme, These are both considered material concepts. Because the impersonalists cannot appreciate the spiritual happiness of association and the exchange of loving affairs with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, their ultimate goal is to become one with the Lord. This concept is simply an extension of the material idea. In the material world, everyone is trying to be the topmost head man amongst all his fellow men or neighbors. Either communally, socially, or nationally, everyone is competing to be greater than all others in the material concept of life. This greatness can be extended to the unlimited, so that one actually wants to become one with the greatest of all, the Supreme Lord. This is also a material concept, although maybe a little more advanced. However, the perfect spiritual concept of life is complete knowledge of one's constitutional position, and thus one knows enough to dovetail himself in the transcendental loving service to the Lord. One must know that he is finite and that the Lord is infinite. Thus, it is not possible to actually become one with the Lord, even if one aspires for this. It is simply not possible. Therefore, anyone who has any desire or aspiration for satisfying his senses by becoming more and more important, either in the material sense or the spiritual sense, cannot actually relish excuse me, the really sweet taste of devotional service. Srila Rupa Goswami has therefore compared possessing these bhukti, material, and mukti, liberation, desires, with being influenced by the black art of a witch, in which both cases one is in trouble. Bhukti means material enjoyment, and mukti means to become freed from material anxiety and to become one with the Lord. These desires are compared to being haunted by ghosts and witches. Because while these aspirations for material enjoyment or spiritual oneness with the Supreme remain, no one can relish the actual transcendental taste of devotional service. Bhakti says I should drink some water. So I'm going to turn off my mic for a moment and drink some water. Be right back. Okay, thank you. It's really dry here. It's hot, and we're just not used to that. So I'm drinking lots of water and doing all these things to stay hydrated. All right, back to the book. A pure devotee never cares for liberation. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prayed to Krishna, quote, "My dear son of Nanda, I do not want any material happiness in the shape of many followers, nor immense opulence in wealth, nor any beautiful wife, nor do I want cessation from material existence. I may take birth many times, one after another, but what I pray from you is that my devotion unto you may always remain unflinching." That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Yes? Sikshastakam, verse 4. The attention of a pure devotee is so much attracted to glorification of the pastimes, name, qualities, forms, etc. of the Lord that the devotee does not care for mukti. Sri Bilva Mangala Thakur has said, quote, "If I am engaged in devotional service unto you, my dear Lord, then very easily can I perceive your presence everywhere. And as far as liberation is concerned, I think liberation stands at my door with folded hands, waiting to serve me." To pure devotees, therefore, liberation and spiritual emancipation are not very important things. Excuse me. In this connection, in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 25, verse 23, Kapila Deva has advised his mother Devahuti as follows. My dear mother, my pure devotees are charmed by seeing my different forms. The beauty of my face, the structure of my body is so enchanting. My laughing, my pastimes, and my glance appear to them so beautiful that their minds are always absorbed in thoughts of me, and their lives are dedicated fully unto me. Although such people do not desire any kind of liberation or any kind of material happiness, still I give them a place amongst my associates in the supreme abode. End quote. This evidence from Srimad Bhagavatam gives assurance to the pure devotee of being elevated to association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Rupa Goswami remarks in this connection that one who is actually attracted by the beauty of the lotus feet of Sri Krishna or his service, and whose heart, by such attraction, is always full with transcendental bliss, will naturally never aspire after the liberation, which is so valuable to the impersonalists. A similar passage is also there in the third canto, 15th chapter of the same book, wherein Uddhava addresses Lord Krishna and says, quote, My dear Lord, for persons who are engaged in your transcendental loving service, there is nothing worth obtaining from religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, or liberation. Although happiness from these different sources can be very easily had by them. In spite of such facilities, my dear Lord, I do not aspire to achieve any such results. My only prayer is that I may have unflinching faith and devotion unto your lotus feet. End quote. A similar passage appears in the third canto, 25th chapter, 31st verse, wherein Kapila Deva instructs his mother again and says, quote, My dear mother, devotees whose hearts are always filled in the service of my lotus feet and who are prepared to do anything for my satisfaction, especially those who assemble together to understand my qualities, pastimes, and form, and thus glorify me congregationally and derive transcendental pleasure therefrom. Such fortunate devotees never desire to become one with me. And not to speak of becoming one with me, they are offered a post like mine in my abode, or opulence like mine, or even personal association with me with similar bodily features. They refuse to accept because they are satisfied simply by being engaged in my devotional service. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 9th chapter, 10th verse, King Dhruva says, quote, My dear Lord, the transcendental pleasure derived by meditation upon your lotus feet, which is enjoyed by the pure devotees, cannot be approached by the transcendental pleasure derived by the impersonalists through self-realization. So how can the fruit of workers, who at most can aspire to promotion to the higher heavenly planets, understand you? And how can they be described as enjoying a happiness similar to the devotees' happiness? So as I thought, we still have time to go. So I'm going to continue on into chapter 4 because it's a much longer chapter. Okay, so chapter 4. Devotional service surpasses all liberation. How much a devotee is seriously attached to the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be understood from the statement of Maharaj Prithu, Adiraj, which is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 20th chapter, 21st verse. He prays to the Supreme Personality of Godhead thusly, quote, My dear Lord, if after taking liberation I have no chance of hearing the glories of your Lordship, glories chanted by pure devotees from the core of their hearts in praise of your lotus feet, and if I have no chance for this honey of transcendental bliss, then I shall never ask for liberation, or this so-called spiritual emancipation. I shall simply always pray unto your Lordship that you may give me millions of tongues and millions of ears, so that I can constantly chant and hear of your transcendental glories. The impersonalists desire to merge into the existence of the Supreme, but without keeping their individuality, they have no chance of hearing and chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord. Because they have no idea of the transcendental form of the Supreme Lord, there is no chance of their chanting and hearing of his transcendental activities. In other words, unless one is already beyond liberation, one cannot relish the transcendental glories of the Lord, nor can one understand the transcendental form of the Lord. A similar statement is found in Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 14th chapter, 43rd verse. Shukadeva Goswami addresses Parikshit Maharaj there and says, quote, "The great soul of King Bharata was so much attached to the service of the lotus feet of Krishna that he very easily gave up his lordship over the earthly planet and his affection for his children, society, friends, royal opulence, and beautiful wife. He was so very lucky that the goddess of fortune was pleased to offer him all kinds of material concessions, but he never accepted any of these material opulences." Shukadeva Goswami eulogizes this behavior of King Bharata very highly. He says, quote, "Any person whose heart is attracted by the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Madhusudana, not to speak of material opulences, does not care even for that liberation which is aspired to by many great sages." In the Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 11th chapter, 23rd verse, there is a similar statement by Vritrasura, who addresses the Lord as follows, quote, "My dear Lord, by leaving your transcendental service, I may be promoted to the planet called Truvaloka, the pole star, or I may gain lordship over all the planetary systems of the universe. But I do not aspire to this, nor do I wish the mystic perfections of yoga practice, nor do I aspire to spiritual emancipation. All I wish for, my Lord, is your association and transcendental service eternally." This statement is confirmed by Lord Shiva in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 17th chapter, 52nd verse, wherein Lord Shiva addresses Sati thusly, quote, "My dear Sati, persons who are devoted to Narayana, Krishna, are not afraid of anything. If they are elevated to the higher planetary systems, or if they get liberation from material contamination, or if they are pushed down to the hellish condition of life, or in fact, in any situation whatever, they are not afraid of anything. Simply because they have taken shelter of the lotus feet of Narayan, for them any position in the material world is as good as another." There is another similar statement by Indra, the king of heaven, in Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 18th chapter, 52nd verse. There Indra addresses his mother in this manner, quote, "My dear mother, Aditi, persons who have given up all kinds of desire and are simply engaged in devotional service to the Lord know what is actually their self-interest. Such persons are actually serving their self-interests and are considered first-class experts in the matter of advancing to the perfectional stage of life." And in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th chapter, 23rd verse, Maharaj Prahlad says, quote, "My dear friends, who are born into atheistic families, if you can please the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, then there is nothing more rare in this world. In other words, if the Supreme Lord Krishna is pleased with you, then any desire that you may have within the core of your heart can be fulfilled without any doubt. As such, what is the use of elevating yourself by the results of fruitive activities, which are automatically achieved in all events by the modes of material nature? And what is the use for you of spiritual emancipation or liberation from material bondage? If you are always engaged in chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord and always relishing the nectar of the lotus feet of the Lord, then there is no necessity for any of these. By this statement of Prahlad Maharaj, it is clearly understood that one who takes pleasure in chanting and hearing the transcendental glories of the Lord has already surpassed excuse me, already surpassed all kinds of material benedictions, including the results of pious fruitive activities, sacrifices, and even liberation from material bondage. So we'll stop there and continue on this next week. This is lovely. I love all these quotes. They're very, they illustrate the topic so well. All right, my friends, have a wonderful, wonderful week. And please come again on Tuesday for Bhagavad Gita. And I wanted people at home to know that in chat, people are talking about what everyone's reading or what everyone's wearing. People are, Greece is looking very classy. We like Ellie's sari, her black dress. It's pretty funny. It's just like in church. Yes, Candida says. So I just wanted to let you know we're all chatty here. While we're listening, we're chatting. Or at least they are. I'm reading. I can't focus on anything else. But we're a nice little group of people here in Bhaktiville. We've all become pretty good friends. I've known Bhakti and Candida forever, it seems. Greece says he wore this outfit for happy hour at a Victorian style pub. Cool. But anyway, nice group of people, nice devotees. Come visit us in Bhaktiville sometime. We'd love to see you. All right, take care. Have a great week, everyone. Hare Krishna.